Live.
Hold on a second. It's working on it.
Okay.
We should be live.
Alright, I'm going to pull this around. And I think, folks, we are live. You should be able to see Megan McGuinness and myself, Dan Sizer. So this is a program called Travelyr that I've just started. I'm the founder, and Travelyr connects rural art centers with rural artists and you, our viewers. And so the point of this project is to offer you a follow-along art lesson. I have Megan McGuinness here, an Oregon artist, and then a chance to donate to our rural art centers. We started this because of the impact we saw COVID-19 had on our art centers here in Baker City, in La Grande, and this is our inaugural session, so we're excited to be here.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time.
Yep. Megan is originally from Portland, Oregon.
Yep.
All right, but been living out here in Eastern Oregon for a while now, and we're actually at my folks' property, and this is where we're going to do our little lesson. So without further ado, let's get going. You will see there are links in the YouTube description where you can donate or you can become a sustaining member of the project if you like the content you're seeing. We'll touch on that later, but let's get painting. So I'm going to give it to Megan. She's going to do a little follow-along lesson, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right, we looking good, Tech Man? Cool.
All right. So everyone following along at home who's actually participating and wants to paint, first thing we're going to start with is our canvas and our beautiful view that we have here. We chose a spot that has a pretty good mountain and then has a good foreground and a good background. So it's going to create a nice picture that will look really good from far away. I really like high contrast art, something that you can see from a distance that stands out, so I'm really excited to do this piece right here. So one of the first things you're going to do is take your pencil.
Thank you. And really quickly for our viewers, I don't know if I mentioned, so we are in Baker County, outside Baker City, and we're going to be working in acrylics today.
Yes, yeah, acrylic paints. And a lot of people don't like acrylic paints because they dry very quickly, but I'm going to help kind of show you guys how to do some techniques so they don't dry too quick. So we're going to kind of do just a quick sketch of what we see, leaving out something. So I'm going to start by the tip of the mountain there and kind of work down. And so I'm going to do that about, well, first I kind of broke up the canvas into 3 different parts.
I'm going to interject here really quick.
Yep.
For those following along, we do have a picture superimposed. I think it's probably like the top left or right corner of this stream. And so this, somewhere, do that thing, top left. So that's what we're going to be drawing. If you want to reference that photo, if you can't see what we're seeing here really well.
And at the end of the day, it's as long as it, looks like a mountain and it doesn't have to be exactly perfect. So, so I'm going to start with the 3 stripes going across to break it up. So you have the background, middle ground, and foreground. And starting up at the top of the mountain, I'm just going to kind of look at it and have it go down to about that, the top of the foreground there. And then I'm going to come in about halfway where I see the other mountain and just go down, and it kind of dips and then comes back. Right? And comes back. It's just kind of guessing. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you wanted to take the photo and break it into grids and really grid it out, that would be fine. That's a really good way to do it. If you want to be really get it kind of perfect on there and get it really realistic, but for us, we're just kind of gonna have fun with it today. And then there's a little bit more, some more mountains over there.
I like that foreground, what'd you call the foreground, middle ground, and background?
Yeah.
That really helps a lot.
Yeah, because you look at a picture and you think, oh man, like there's a lot going on. But when you break it down into grid pattern, it really helps your brain focus on certain parts. So then, I don't know if it's in the picture too, but there is a little kind of inlet there. So I'm just going to kind of make that and follow the tree line where the lighter green is, or the more neon green is, that field out there. Okay. And just kind of bring it down. you have a little indent there. And when I look at pictures, I like to squint and kind of get an idea of what's the biggest amount of color in a certain area, and that's how I usually make my foreground. It looks good.
Yeah, it looks okay.
Yeah, it looks great.
And my pencil is out of
no.
lead, so if I cannot like put some white on my oh, there's a pencil.
Oh,
Look,
nice
we have our secret live audience behind us. Perfect.
All right, I'll let you catch up.
Okay. Yep. Oh, and I'm there.
Perfect. So we have that little dip, and then there's a kind of a green patch that's really neon-y, at least yeah, for me it looks neon-y. And it follows the tree line, and then it's just kind of coming down. Just gonna add that in. I guess it'd be a little bit thinner. And there's kind of a dark patch. And sometimes if you're feeling like you won't remember, I'll just put like BR green, so bright green.
Oh, nice.
So that it's kind of like a
I'm definitely not going to remember.
Paint by numbers in a way.
I think everyone watching from home will appreciate that.
Yeah, and there's some happy little trees right there. So my trees are usually elongated triangles.
Okay, and are you looking at the ones that are past that like big weeping willow kind of
I'm looking
tree?
at them kind of in the
up,
distance
okay,
right there.
gotcha.
Yeah, yours would be kind of like right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but again, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and I'm so lucky to have you right next to me.
So then,
I'm just going to interject really quick. Anyone who's just tuning in, I'm here, Dan Sizer with Travelyr. This is Megan McGuinness. We're doing this little live stream art lesson for y'all. And if you do like what we're seeing, the whole initiative behind this project is support rural art centers. So donations from today's work are all going to go to Megan and Crossroads Art Center in Baker City. So there's a donate button that you'll find in the description of the YouTube video and a sustaining member button. But feel free, if you can, support. If not, just follow along and have a good time.
yeah.
All right.
All right. So then I'm gonna kind of just do that'll probably be just a long patch of green, and I'm just gonna maybe add a few lupin right here, but they're very suggestive lupin.
Okay, those are those ones right in front of
Yeah,
us.
so I've kind of just moved everything up. You're just kind of getting you can always, it doesn't have to be exactly what you see.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
That's
helps.
art, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just a suggestion of what. There is a nice willow tree out there that's pretty, and I'll probably add that in. But again, you want to make it reasonable to where you are.
Right.
A lot of people do like this kind of thing to get an idea, or use your pencil
Right,
to
I've seen
kind
people
of.
do that thing.
Yeah, so that works too.
Okay.
And I'll just, as I'm going, I'll also add in some kind of shadows. So right shadow, dark green, light, lupin. And one of my favorite things to do is draw the tree line as kind of a sawtoothy looking thing. But of course, anyone can do what they want. That will definitely be one of the last things that I'll paint in there.
Okay, and covering our canvas in pencil like this, the acrylic will just go right over it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And so how I usually paint with acrylic is it's pretty thick, so a couple layers and you won't see any of the pencil at all.
Okay.
So, yeah, and then I don't know, should we add in some clouds? I guess there's clouds today, or...
Let's do clouds.
Let's do
Might as well. I mean,
clouds.
we have room for them up here, right?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna do that big one, kind of make them nice and fluffy. Looks like it kind of follows along the top of the mountain, and then...
I'm just sort of going to make mine up, I think.
Yep. They're gonna move in 5 minutes anyway. So.
That's true. Anyone who's not in Baker County, we just had a torrential downpour right before this, and now it's sunny, so we're blessed with some good weather. All right.
So yeah, I think that looks pretty good for now in terms of just we've blocked out the area. It's suggested like where everything's gonna be, and of course this will all change at some point, but at least it's got a good start. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Great.
yeah.
All right. So what's we've outlined our drawing, and
next thing is to
paint?
paint. Yeah, a lot of times artists will do an underpainting, which is basically choosing your lights and darks. I think we're just going to skip that today, and we're just going to go straight for it.
Okay.
Usually having your canvas gessoed is really nice, and I think yours is, as mine is. So I think we should be good to go.
Okay. And you said gessoed?
Yes.
What does that word mean?
Basically a primer that goes on your canvas before you start painting, and that just helps so the paint doesn't penetrate the canvas and you aren't just trying to put several layers on at a time.
Okay, gotcha. Learning some art terminology. It's good for me.
And I'm not even, it's been so long since I've had actual professional.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you professionally trained?
In a sense, I went to, between the ages of 9 and 13, I went to a art school every Saturday, and my parents would drive me to. It was 4 hours long, and I learned basically everything I know from there. Yeah,
That's
so I got
Portland?
Yep,
Okay.
I got a college education at a young age. So yeah, so it was, but I didn't go to art college.
Okay.
Art college? I don't know.
Yeah, right. You didn't study that at college.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And you actually just graduated.
Yeah, I got
So,
with my
Congrats to Megan.
Thank you.
Yesterday.
My bachelor's of science and anthropology. So yeah,
cool.
Pretty excited. So we're gonna be using well, first I like to start with the background. Some people will start with the foreground. I like to do the background and work my way down. So I think doing some blue sky is gonna be our first thing. So cool. I'll put some on your.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Blue. So this is a phthalo blue. I also really like. I'll show you the two. This is an affordable acrylic. This one is a little bit more expensive, but they're both great. This one does have a little bit more opaqueness. So there's some. If you're at a store, I think starting with this, if you're just getting into it, is really good.
Right.
So blue.
How do you end up choosing acrylics as your sort of medium that you work in?
I love how they dry so quickly, and so you can paint something and then maybe 5 minutes later go over it again. So I've kind of gotten really used to it and the feel of it. Yeah. I've done almost every medium, oil. I've done wood sculpture, clay sculpture, but found that acrylic is really versatile because you can go anywhere with it. You can be out in the woods and bring it along and be able to paint, and so that's really nice. It's not too hard to go anywhere with.
That's cool. Yeah. Versus oil that like takes forever to dry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Oh man. Yeah. So paintbrush wise, probably something a flat paintbrush that's a little bit wider. If you want to use one of these.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, that one's good. Nice. And what I do is I dip my paintbrush in the water.
Can we share
first.
water?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So I get a little bit of a wet area on there, and then what you're gonna want to do is grab the blue and probably a lot of it. Oh wait, hold on. Just doing this backwards. Just kidding.
Rewind. It's okay.
Wipe off your
wipe off the blue.
brushes.
Everyone, wipe off the blue.
So start over. You're gonna when you're doing since the sky is kind of a lighter blue, we're gonna want to start with our lighter color first.
Okay, is that sort of a rule of thumb?
Yeah, you're gonna be adding too much white to the blue if you start with blue. So I just grabbed the big chunk, I put it in here, and I'm just kind of mixing it around to get it kind of loose. I guess is a good term. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of blue at a time, since the blue is a little bit more overpowering. Okay. So you're going to want to really mix it on your paintbrush. Yeah, it looks good.
It's okay?
Yeah, and so a term I don't know if it's a real term, but I do this roll with my paintbrush. You just kind of roll it over, and that gets it.
Gets all that stuff off.
Yeah, of it. See, when you're painting, you don't get all these streaks on there.
I'm not the one to demonstrate that, but
that's perfect.
Okay,
yeah, just kind of like this little tuck and roll.
Okay.
And just really capture everything with a swoop, and then. Okay. Yeah, like that looks good. See, then I've got a good goop on my Perfect. And then you're just gonna want to go wherever and start
filling in. Okay.
And this is the first layer, so it is gonna be streaky. It's gonna look really bad. But what you're doing is just filling in all your space, and to get a little bit more. It's in a sense it's kind of like a watercolor, where
Okay.
you're just really filling in the space first and getting an idea of where your colors are going to be on the canvas. So just working it around.
And I've already gone outside my cloud lines. Like, that's okay?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And that's why I like to start with the sky, because you're going to be layering on top of these. So starting with the sky and moving your way down, and then we'll start again and move down, so it's constantly on top of each other.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you run out of paint of that same color and you can't get it back again, that's totally fine. Just try to get as close as you can. That is one of the harder things is...
Right, I already changed mine.
Yeah. So it is good to get like a lot going on and putting it on your palette. So...
And we do have a chat function on the YouTube channel, so if you have questions, we have a moderator behind us. Our Brian is our tech wizard, and he's keeping track of everything. So send in a question, text it in, and we'll try to get those answered.
A nice day.
It's a gorgeous day.
And I usually don't worry about the sides.
Of the canvas?
Yeah, you can paint them now, or you can go back later. If you're going to frame it, then it really doesn't matter.
Do you want to read that comment out loud?
My brother's watching over in North Carolina. Is that where you're at? And he wanted me to paint a picture of him, include a portrait of his face. So
Into like a very
yeah.
abstract kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I can make it work.
All right. This might take a turn.
Subliminal message of his face. Thanks for watching, big bro. Okay, so the blue, that looks great.
Mine's all I like how yours is sort of streaky. Like mine is all just one flat color.
No, that's perfect. You might
Okay.
not even have to go over it again later.
Okay.
Yeah, nice work. So then we have
we have a question for you, Megan,
Oh,
from
yeah.
Clay. Clay asks what your favorite thing to paint is.
I honestly really love painting this kind of stuff.
Okay.
Any landscape and water. I love if there's water and it has really high contrast of lights and darks. I love getting into that kind of flow of it. It's just so much you can do with
Okay.
water and landscape, especially if there's like, I love how the cloud on the mountain is darker and then it's really bright, and so
Right.
anything that's high intensity is cool.
Yeah.
Good question.
What are we doing next?
So next we can fill in the clouds just to get them over with,
Okay.
just to work down. So I usually just take big old chunk of white, and there is differences in colors, but I think for now we'll just kind of...
So how careful, like, has this already dried enough that we don't need to be too careful of our edges? Oh, that's how you just touch it. All right.
You should be good, yeah. And even if it blends a little bit, we'll be going over it. By the time we're done with down here, we'll be able to go back.
Okay.
So for me, this time is just about placing colors and getting an idea of where everything is on the canvas. And once we're done with the first layer, we can step back and go, oh, that looks weird. So it's just a good way to know where you are.
Right. Do you find yourself often having to step back, like you get too caught up. I think
Oh,
that would happen to
yeah.
me. I'd get tunnel vision this close to a painting and would have to.
Absolutely, and I think I don't work with a lot of fine detail stuff, but you can definitely get caught up in certain parts and not realize what you're doing until later on when it's very far away on a wall.
Right. after it's sold.
Yeah.
Go shoot.
Like that, and that happens too, where I'll see something I did several years ago and go, oh my gosh, why did they do that? I should have done it this way. And I think that's the neat thing about art is it's always, well, your style, people's style is always evolving. Like this was not the style I did 10 years ago, so.
Okay, probably not the style you did when you were 9 in that art school.
Yeah, no, not at all.
What's the biggest thing you think's changed?
I think I used to really focus on what the piece was representing to me, like, oh, what does this mean? What I want to put a metaphor in this, and it represents this to me. But now it's more of a try to get a feeling in the picture, like, so someone else could look at it and be like, this reminds me of this, instead of me trying to project my wants and needs on somebody.
Okay.
So that's kind of a weird way.
Right, leave it more open to
Yeah.
interpretation.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're natural. Nice work.
Right. You're a good liar.
Looks good too.
Okay,
So clouds look good.
done our clouds.
Oh yeah, and feel free if you think your paintbrush is too small to switch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right, switch sizes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll put some yellow kind of on the opposite corner.
Okay. Okay, now you don't feel like you have to wait for me.
Okay. Okay, so now I'm gonna go into the middle ground and look for my darkest areas. So that really helps when you squint at it and kind of notice where the shadows are hitting. That will give your canvas a little bit more of a depth to it. So I'm gonna start with my blue again and just add a little bit of yellow. And then if it's not quite dark enough, just keep adding more blue. Maybe a little bit more yellow.
Blue and yellow make
Green. So that's, yeah, I like just using these primary colors because I have been trying to get out of my comfort zone and use ones that have been pre-made, and that's really nice, but these will always get you the colors you need.
Right.
And I don't like to use black. It is found in nature, but when you apply black, it is really overpowering on a canvas. So I'm just gonna kind of, I know that this mountain is a little bit lighter. This is further back, and it's also gonna be a little bit wider, I guess, to get a distance feel to it.
Okay. Sarah Doyle wants to know, how many paintbrushes do we have?
Well, Sarah, there's a lot of paintbrushes here.
I think you have more than me.
And that's like half of my stash too. So,
Okay.
but you can never have enough paintbrushes.
Right, but that actually doesn't seem like that many.
It's not
for an artist.
No, yeah, I guess there could be more.
Right.
Yeah. But
you don't need that many.
No, you've got them all covered.
Yeah.
Usually, I only use 1 to 2 paintbrushes per painting too. So.
That's awesome.
So if the paint feels like it's about to dry out, I just use water.
Okay.
And try to revive it. So I'm gonna start with that kind of darker mountain.
The one with that we see as snow on top.
Yeah,
I don't know. Okay,
yeah, it has a little bit.
Right.
This isn't quite dark enough, but we'll go over it later.
Okay.
And just.
And you start at your lines and move down from there? Or...
Yeah, so kind of start at the top and then wiggle around them. that's dark. And then I'll probably take that same dark and kind of go where I'm looking at the tree lines.
Okay.
And follow it down. This is the part I like the most, is just... I really like... I think I might even... If this was a painting I was doing, I would probably paint most of it dark and then go over it with the light, because it really helps make a painting pop. But for this, we'll just do it this way.
Right. So the quick and dirty way?
Yeah, quick and dirty.
Alright, so anyone who has tuned in since we started, if you're following along, I hope you can get caught up just by what we're doing. But again, my name's Dan. Recently started this program called Travelyr with a Y, travelyrwithany.com. That's where you'll see our upcoming sessions like this. But the whole point of this service is to provide free live streamed art experiences, whether that's visual art or any medium of art like woodworking or anything, music, photography. With the point being to support rural art centers. As here in Baker County, I saw Crossroads and Art Center East in LeGrand sort of disproportionately affected by COVID. And so if you like what you're seeing, there's a donate button for a one-time donation down at the bottom, and also a way to become a sustaining member. But those donations will go to Crossroads Art Center in Baker City and to Megan here. So a great way to support this project. But thanks for tuning in. If you have questions, write in the chat, and we'll try to answer them. So okay, I need to catch up to you, but we're doing our darkest darks right now.
Yep, darkest darks. I did just add a little bit of this Prussian blue hue. I can add some.
And you just outlined your mountains?
Yes, I really like outlining. That also just helps me be able to look back and go, whoa, is that right? So that I'll probably do that with the field as well, but with a little bit lighter color. But I'm trying to see where else we get some dark spots. So I'll just add this Prussian blue to the other dark blue we made, and that should help it pop a little bit more. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
That's what we're talking about. Now we're painting with acrylics.
Now we're painting with acrylics. So yeah, the paints you use really do make a difference. These are fine, but if you want a really solid color, going for something a little bit more expensive does help at least with the oh, that doesn't look, that looks too streaky, or that doesn't look streaky enough. So yeah, let's see. And sometimes I just make up little areas on the mountain, just as oh yeah, that looks good if it were more concave and okay, so let's see.
Yeah, I'll catch up. Just
'Kay.
Feel free to move on.
I think I'll fill in the middle ground, and there's so many trees on the mountain that I'm pretty much just gonna say it's all one color. That's how that's how
easy.
I like to.
I like that.
It's like the squinting pictures. It's just squinting at it, but it will help visually if you work the darker to light. So
okay.
Just make this a little bit darker. And even adding a little bit of white will really help boost your paint and even make it more opaque.
Okay.
And that also adds that kind of smoky look like it is in the distance.
And your lines Like the top, see how my lines are so...
Yeah.
What can I do to fix
So
that?
what you can do is just keep dipping your paintbrush in.
Okay.
And making it really watery.
Wet? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. There are other types of acrylic additives that you can put in that act as water, but it doesn't really bring the doesn't make it as streaky as this.
Okay.
But I
don't know if anyone watching was having this problem, but my like the tops of my lines, my edges were not very firm, and so Megan suggested just using more water, and it really worked.
Yeah, and a lot of times I'll dip my paintbrush in and just kind of get it a little bit. So over time you get an idea of how much water's on your brush, and then you just twirl it in with the rest of your paint. So you're constantly doing the water, paint, twirl dance.
Yeah.
So I've got that mapped in. And this is definitely too dark, but that's the great thing about acrylic is in about 10 minutes or 20 minutes when we get back to it, it will just go right back over it.
Okay, cool. And you can even do lights over darks.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
So I'm gonna add, I'm gonna do this mountain, and I added a little bit of white to it, to our dark green, and then a little bit more yellow, because it is a little bit more yellowy. Using really artistic terms.
Yellowy.
Yellowy. And then I'm going to add a little bit more water, twirl my paintbrush, and try to just do a fell swoop here.
So you said that your subject matter ends up being water, mountains, landscapes a lot of times.
Yeah.
Is that also, do you find that there's a difference between your subject matter and, say, like what inspires you? Is there a distinction there?
Well, what's interesting is I started, when I started school, I found that I was kind of looking back at old photographs that I had taken over the years, and a lot of them were out in the wilderness with friends, and usually my friends' backs were turned to me, and so I started doing pictures of my past to kind of solidify those memories in my mind, and it really took me back to that place, and that's what inspired me for a really long time, is kind of recapturing ideas or places and times that I'd been, and it was nostalgic to do that.
Picture's worth 1,000 words. A painting's worth more than 1,000 words.
Exactly.
Clay asks why you prefer acrylics over oils.
I believe I haven't spent a whole bunch of time with oil paints, and it's funny because when I do oil paints, they turn out being more like acrylics. I don't use a lot of the linseed oil or any of the additives that help it be smooth.
Right.
But I just love acrylics because they're it's almost like a liquid plastic where you can go over it again and again after it dries and just keep adding layers and making it more robust. And I've always felt maybe it comes down to me being lazy, where like I don't want to wait for the oil paints to dry. I just want something to be done. I will say that oil paints produce a much richer feeling, but when I work with landscapes and the blocks of colors that I do, it's much easier to use acrylics, whereas if I was doing a portrait of somebody where you're trying to get their skin tone correct and smooth, oil paints would definitely be the way to do that.
Okay.
So at least that's how I see it in my mind. I'm sure people would fight me on that.
That's alright. You can do whatever you want, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm sort of drawn to acrylics already because I like the forgivability of them.
Yes.
Which I guess, people say that about oils too.
Yeah.
Like, they're very moldable, but this is like a quicker instant gratification of like being able to fix something.
Yeah, where it's and all you're doing is just constantly building up on what you already have. So, I think I'm going to. So yeah, this looks like. I think a lot of people would give up by now because like, oh, it looks like crap. But this is just my underlayer for the most part. I'll come back in and we'll make it less streaky. But yeah, I think I'm going to do the foreground now.
Okay.
And I'm going to start in this corner with it's kind of the brightest spot, it feels like, with the yellow. So I'm going to grab yellow, maybe put it in a different location, and add some white to it. The white will really help boost it up there. And a little bit of... And that's the best part, is the color doesn't have to be perfect right now either. Just gonna go in here. Oh yeah.
Just realized I forgot to do a bunch of my clouds, or I don't know what I'm gonna do there, but yours has clouds, so I think I'll just do what you did.
Yeah. Just add some white in there.
You ever change your water, or does...
No,
Okay.
I'm an abusive painter to my paintbrushes and my water.
Okay.
You absolutely can if you're working in, like, we've done all the lights and all, or if we've done all the darks and then you're working with your light colors and you're like, oh, I just can't get it the right color, then I definitely would change it. But for now, I don't feel like it makes too much of a difference unless it's totally sludgy.
Right.
Doing that bright green that I wrote in there. Ooh.
That sun feels good.
It does. And after a while, if you're outdoors doing this and then you come inside, or the sun goes down, you can always just kind of I like to take a picture and then come back in and work off of that picture too. So if someone doesn't have time to finish this.
Right. How long does it usually take you to complete a painting? Or, I don't know, that's probably a variable answer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I can do like a 10 by 10 and maybe 8 hours if but also not all together.
A 10 by 10?
Yeah.
10
like
inches by 10 inches?
Yeah, like the little guy.
Yeah.
Bigger paintings definitely takes a while. There was one commission I just did this winter that I loved, but it was just so much. It was humongous, and I loved doing it, but it was definitely one that you had to push yourself, because I feel like it's a mixture of wanting to do it, like especially during quarantine. Like we were talking about earlier, it's been hard because you have so much time to do stuff, but at the same time your body's kind of like, hey, let's just hang out. You don't have to, because it really does take a lot of energy. It's a lot of times I compare it to running a race. Like, it's definitely not definitely not an Olympic sport, but sometimes it feels like it, just the mental energy you're putting in and in the thought process.
Right, you can't really just be lazy and
throw
your paintbrush on the canvas and think something's going to come out of it.
You can.
You can?
I don't think
maybe
I would
do like painting.
Yeah, you could do that all day. There's artists that have done that, and they're in museums somewhere. But I think that's another common. People think that I hear a lot of people say, like, I can't paint. I am just not an artist, and I firmly believe that everyone is an artist in their own way. And I think I've taught kids back in the day. I've gone into their school and we've done a little bit of drawing, and some kids are just like, I can't, there's no way. But I think they're taught that at a young age. And especially with schools, with art being cut out of schools, it's really difficult to get kids to be creative. And so that would be something that would be good for the community, is more art classes for kids and
Right, or like live stream art experiences.
yeah, like this. Like I hope everyone's kids are watching because it is
Yeah.
really important just to get that creative outlet in their lives.
Totally.
Yeah.
Note on that for anyone that is watching, if you have friends or family that want to watch this, it's going to be recorded and posted on YouTube, in probably a clearer, better resolution than what you're watching it in now. So it will be available. It is being recorded. So check back. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is actually a great way to support us and check out upcoming content. I think there's a subscribe button, and then there's a little bell you can click if you want notifications. We're also on Facebook. Our website, you can subscribe there, and all that information is in the description of the video, along with how to donate to the project and make those donations to Crossroads and Megan and support rural art. So
yeah, and I think in Crossroads they have classes there for all ages, and Art Centers East in La Grande also has class. Well, I think they're gonna. I'm not sure.
yeah, I'm not actually sure where Art Center East is at right now.
But I think that's it. That's why it's important. It's really cool that you're doing this so that we can keep art alive.
I think art's more important now than ever, almost.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's a good way to express yourself and keep yourself from going mad.
Yeah.
Or make yourself mad. I'm getting a little mad. I don't know what I'm doing over here.
It's beautiful.
That's what I needed to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome. Doing great. See, now I don't remember what that strip was that I put there, but I'm just going to fill it in. I think, looking back at it, I feel like it should be darker, just to bring down the contrast there. So, I'll put in a little bit of that blue.
I sort of just like what happens to the palette.
I know. Yeah.
All these different colors you end up seeing.
A lot of times with these cups, the muffin tins, I'll just pull it off and they're like perfectly plastic little.
That's cool.
Yeah.
We have a very vocal viewer, Clay.
Clay
has another question. He's asking if your painting will be auctioned off after the stream. And so this is something we'd sort of talked about.
Yeah.
I think last time we talked, you mentioned it will be for sale, or what's your thoughts on that, Megan?
I don't see why not. And then there's also the thought of doing prints too.
Right.
I don't really know if we would do that right after this, because I think I'll probably still have to go home and do some additives to it. But
right.
Yeah.
So I think the answer to that question is, and that's a great way to support Megan as she goes off to pursue other things too, is we will have prints available to buy of the piece that Megan's doing today. And I think you can probably either, contact Megan directly, follow her on Instagram. I have her website linked to the bio there in that description of the YouTube channel. You can also hit us up at travelyrlive@gmail.com. Our email's on the YouTube description, and we can facilitate that transaction as well. That's Travelyr with a Y. And then as far as this painting you're actually doing, I think same way, get in contact with Travelyr or Megan.
Yeah.
And if there's multiple people, I'm not exactly sure if it's going to be first come first serve or an auction type way to sell this. But we'll just cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah, I think that's a good. We're just glad people are watching.
Yeah, we're just psyched that we're here and that you're here. So thanks for the question, Clay.
So I did switch to a smaller brush. It's still a flat brush. You can also use a round brush like this to get to those smaller trees. This also helps clean up. I might do a little bit more outlining. So let's see. Maybe I want to do this brush. Nice brush. So I'll usually just leave my brushes in the water.
Okay. Which I think I remember my high school art teacher saying not to do that.
Yeah. Don't listen to anybody.
It was all lies?
Yeah, all lies. Now I'm very... I mean, they turn out... It turns out just fine. Usually I'll forget about my brush cup for weeks on end, and I'll come back to it, and they're all fine, It's just... Just a little abuse.
My art teacher must have been getting paid off by the paintbrush company.
Yeah, I think she was.
I just love how many colors, how many shades, I guess, of like green and blue we have going on.
Right, isn't that cool? And that's just using these, I mean, 3 colors, so well,
Yeah.
in that blue too. But still, there's a lot you can get from just adding little bits of color at a time. So I'll probably hit up this willow tree a little bit more and kind of get some shadow going on under it.
Yeah, mine looks like a hay bale.
It can be a hay bale if you want, you know. We're out here in the country.
That's true.
And then I think the last thing I'll do is put the lupins in, and then we're gonna start up from the top again and basically just refill.
Yeah. And it's just already 3:45.
Oh wow!
We've already been at this for 45 minutes, which has flown by.
Thanks for still watching. If you're still watching.
Yeah. And so we'll just sort of see. I mean, we said it was going to be an hour long, but we'll sort of stop whenever we feel like we need to stop, and you can sort of tell people what the next steps are.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, I need to. Can I steal some of this white?
Oh yeah, go for it. So I'm with the lupins. They're kind of a dark. There's a mixture of colors. So I'll start with the darkest color and grab the dark blue and mix that dark blue with the red. You'll get this really nice purpley color. I'm just gonna put that.
That is nice.
Yeah, it's pretty. And I might even incorporate this somewhere, even in the clouds, to kind of bring it all together. Let's see.
How much do you think about like I guess like composition and color scheme and all that stuff? Like if you're doing photography, you think about, or how much do you think about that before you do a?
It really depends. Since I do a lot of my work off of a picture, I see a picture and I go, oh man, that's perfect. But if there is color that needs to be changed in order to get it more situated and more pleasing to the eye, then absolutely I'll change it around a little bit.
But is a lot of that just sort of like improv as you're going along?
Yeah, especially towards the end where you're looking at it and you go, boy, it almost feels done, but like it would look so much better if it had this in it. So that's the great part, is there's so much play going on.
Ooh, that's a good comment from Stacy Keller. Wants to see a close-up. I'm assuming Stacy means of my picture. Just kidding. So yeah, why don't I? And Brian, you can tell me if this is looking good. But how is that on the computer?
Looks good.
Yeah, is that getting pretty full screen there?
You can go a little closer even.
Okay. So this is where Megan's at right now. And maybe to make everyone feel better, I will show you mine. But then she's down there doing the lupin right now, in that purple we were talking about.
Just getting in there.
And here is what I've been doing on, so everyone can feel better. That's supposed to be my willow tree, but I've got my lupin to do. So I hope that was a good enough. We'll zoom in on Megan's one more time, so you can see what she's doing.
Just kind of improving with the lupin. They're there, but they don't have to be perfect or detailed.
Let's see if I can show those lupin. There's a lupin, and we're actually at my folks' place right now, out in the countryside of Eastern Oregon, and so this is my mom's lupin jungle. So that's what we're looking at. I'm going to put you back on the tripod here. Try to catch up.
So yeah, I feel like this looks fairly good. Now it's time to get serious about the next layer. So everything's pretty much dry now, which is great. It has a nice foundation for the next level. So I'm just gonna start again with the sky.
Okay, and you're going back to your big brush?
Yeah. Wherever, I don't know what I did with it. Maybe I did. Maybe I cleaned it off and put it back like a good person. Oh no, I put it in the.
There it is.
I really abused it. Sorry, brush. Let's see. More white. And for this second layer, I'll probably do a lot more white just because it's, I'll definitely want to get it to be a solid color. That's just how I like it. You can also do a gradient with a little bit more, like a darker blue at the top and go down to a lighter blue.
Mm.
So I'm really going to try to mix.
So how often do you think you're painting? I mean, I guess that changes probably with where you're at in your life, but like, is it like
Yes.
weekly, daily, monthly?
It's for the past 4 years. It's been kind of touch and go. At least the past year has been a little less.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I try to book shows.
Okay.
I'm currently showing at so if you're in Bend, I'm at Lone Pine Coffee showing there with another baker artist named Nancy Kofelt.
Oh, cool.
And I really love Lone Pine's coffee. It's delicious, and they were really excited to have me there. So it's nice to have shows once in a while. And over the past years, I've had a couple other shows in Bend, so it's nice to have a place. And that's also motivation to keep making art, because sometimes you just don't want to do it.
Right. And so, is that motivation like how much that's financial? Like at this point.
Oh, sometimes like lately, the commissions definitely help with that, and then that just makes it fun when you have. When you just want to do kind of whatever you want, that's nice to have that kind of leeway into, like, I can make money this way and then just do whatever I want with my other art time.
Right.
But sometimes that's also a problem because you're not motivated to just have fun with art. So
I've got a question on commissions.
yes.
When you take a commission, how do you balance like your creative agency, your creative freedom within what someone tells you they want?
That, now that I've gotten to this point where people really like the style, it's really easy to say, they will just tell me like, hey, I have this picture of my family or this, and it's usually something that I want to paint. So I haven't had trouble with that yet.
Right, and because they know your style and they know what it's going to turn out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what if someone, or like early on maybe before you had defined a style, was that different? Did you find yourself conflicted with,
absolutely,
like having to, like you were getting paid to do something, so having to make your customer happy, but also wanting to adhere to your style?
Like I had the tools and skill set to do it, but it was definitely wanting to do it was another thing. Like, when someone wants you to do like more of a graphic image, it's harder.
Right. And you just had to bare your teeth and do it? Or?
I know I'm worth more than this, but I'm going for it.
Did you ever turn down commissions? Or have you ever?
I usually try to say yes to everything. Right now, I have had to say no just because I'm trying to prepare to go into grad school.
Right.
And so that's been a little difficult. It's usually my friends who ask for commissions. So I'm usually like, yeah, I can do that. And,
right.
So I don't. Yeah, that's really nice. We've got good friends.
How much marketing of yourself did you have to do or have you done throughout your?
Not a whole bunch. In Bend, there was just I lived there for about 6 years.
Okay.
And it was an amazing art community. So we all kind of knew each other. There was a place called the Poet House where we all hung out, and we're all around the same age, and so people would just ask people, like coffee shops needed art to show, so there's a lot of coffee shops and stuff like that, which people started to know your name, and so it was really,
that's cool.
Yeah.
We do have another question from Clay.
Clay.
You know Clay?
No, I don't know what's the last name.
Clay, I believe it's Clay Berthelsen. I'm not totally sure.
Oh, okay.
Totally
sure.
Hi, Clay! Well, there's my mom in the background. But Clay asked, what's the largest painting you've ever done?
Ooh, I've done a couple of murals.
Ooh, cool.
And usually those are 8 feet by 4 feet.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. One of the coolest paintings that I did with my really good friend Sarah Moore in Bend. We were commissioned by 10 Barrel Brewing to paint on the side of their truck. And so we did that at the Brew Fest in Bend a couple years ago.
Oh, it was like a live thing?
Yeah, it was a
Oh,
live
neat.
thing, and they just had us paint one side of it. That was pretty big, and it was good to have collaboration on that. But definitely, Baker City has commissioned some murals that were taken down recently because the people who are in the building are moving in and doing a lot of construction.
Oh, okay.
And then Bend, Oregon, there's a couple commissions there too. But I do enjoy doing larger pieces of art.
Yeah.
So,
Neat.
yeah. And real quick, I just put purple in the clouds.
Right. And that's just artistic choice.
Yeah. You don't have to put that. I just,
I like it. I love
sometimes you just need a little bit of extra in your cloud. Your little smiley face. And then I'll go over that with white too. So let's see. Oops. I might add just a little bit of that blue sky color to my white, just so it isn't a total plain white. That adds a little bit of something to it. It's looking good. I like that blue color.
Thanks. Sort of like I'm realizing, at least with me as a beginner, I don't have any idea of what color I'm trying to make. That's sort of fun because I just end up with these crazy colors that.
Exactly, and you can definitely like try to match it as close as possible, but I've never been that good at. I just kind of whatever looks good and I think you develop a sense of colors that you like,
right.
And just
fun to be surprised by them.
Yeah. Is that a cow mooing in the distance?
We know we're in Eastern Oregon. That is a cow mooing in the distance. Do you ever deal with like artist block or just like discouragement?
Yeah, I think lately, especially with social media, and I know we're watching stuff, everyone who's watching is on social media right now, but it does become difficult because you really start to compare yourself to other people and to other artists and think, well, I don't need to do art anymore because someone's already done like everything amazing.
Right.
So I think for artist block, it is important to look at artists that are not on social media. So yeah, throw your phone in the pond.
Are there people that are not on social media?
Yeah, right. Well, and mostly dead artists too. Go to the library, pick out some books, and really start to dive in. And like one of my favorite artists is Fairfield Porter, and he's from the, I believe, 50s. I could be totally wrong, but he does. I love his style, and that's kind of what I fell in love with that. And I think mimicking other artists is important, even though you don't, it doesn't feel right. It is kind of to get a sense of how they see the world, and that helps you discover new ways that you might like too. Somebody once told me that it's really important to take a picture and just do like 30 of the same thing, and you'll come out with different pieces each time, but it kind of helps your brain learn different aspects of the canvas and of the pieces that you're working with. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Have you done that?
No, I haven't. I've always wanted to.
Yeah,
but
that takes some like discipline. Or
my clouds are a little messy, but I'll come back.
Yeah, we're doing acrylics.
Yeah.
So it looks like we are about at an hour. So how do you feel? Do you want to?
I can basically, I can explain if someone wants to know the next steps of what to do, just basically work from your darkest to your lightest, and you can add in some trees if you want, or you can keep it one plain color. It's really up to them, whatever everyone wants to do. But just keep working your way down to the bottom, and then do some fine details towards the end. And if you're not satisfied, like I still have some streaks in my blue, so I'll probably do another, like a third go around again. But yeah, just keep working through it, and getting the streaks gone. At least I don't like streaks, so
Right. Okay. So why don't we're gonna go a little over,
Okay.
because I have a few more questions I wanted to
Okay.
ask you, just to see what you would say. Part of this is supposed to be this interview, so people can get to know you. And then anyone watching, if you have questions, knowing that we are going to end this stream pretty soon, why don't you write in, give us a holler, and we'll try to answer those in this last like 10 minutes of the stream. So just write in on the YouTube chat, what you think you might encounter, and we'll try to get those answered.
Yeah.
And again, I'll do my little plug. If you do want to, support this and keep these live streamed art experiences going, there's 2 donate buttons down there in the YouTube description. One to make a one-time donation, and then another to go to our Patreon page and become a patron of this project, which is a sustaining sort of support, a monthly donation of like, I think you can even do like $3. And all those donations are split with Crossroads and our featured artist of the month, this month being Megan. We'll have another session coming up soon, yet uncertain. We have a few things in the works, so that'll be, follow us, subscribe on YouTube, and we'll let you know what that is and when that is. We got a question. Stacy Keller says, "Keep going." Okay, well, we will keep going for a bit, as long as you're all right with it.
Yeah, we don't want to bore anybody.
Yeah, as long as people are into it, we'll keep going.
So I just did that back. It is a little bit more covered with cloudage right now, but I did that darker, and then I added just a little bit of the like that blue color.
Right.
And kind of am going on top of it to give it that smoky kind of look.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. That's it.
I have a question as I like threw some of that purple in my clouds. How do you get yours so nicely blended? You just add more white and just do
and
that
then go over
gradient
it.
kind of
Yeah.
thing?
So add a little bit of that blue to it as well, so
Okay.
that wow, that looks good.
Okay. Someone, mother, asks, what do you do if you accidentally dip your brush in your wine?
It depends if you notice or not.
Is it okay to then stick your brush in your mouth?
That's definitely happened too. I guess it's just how comfortable you are with the taste of paint.
And how many glasses of wine you've had?
One time again, I'm abusive to my paint, so
Right.
they usually just dry up, and then I have to poke them to open them up again.
Okay.
They usually have caps, but I just lose the cap, so and I was trying to poke one open one time, and instead it just went right into my eye.
Oh,
So
jeez.
that I had to wash that out. So you gotta be careful. Dangerous. Painting is dangerous.
Oh, all right. So we have a question about how do we add detail to the lupin, or are you?
Oh yeah. With the lupin, what I would do is just keep working from darker to light, and white is gonna be your best friend. So I can kind of show, if someone's already on that part, I can.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Why don't we jump down there?
Yeah, because that's gonna be definitely one of the last things. So yeah, just mix in that blue and that red again, and I'll make it a little bit lighter than the last go around, and just kind of, and since the lupin does have kind of the little buds on it, I guess, I don't know if that's the best way to put it. You can use a more of a round brush and just kind of add little dots.
Right. So now I'm going to zoom in on your painting there.
Maybe.
And so we're not talking, at least your style, we're not talking detail like, like someone, like a dog's fur.
Right. This is just suggestive.
Right,
Shapes, yeah. And so then,
Right.
and then I'll go in with the neck. So I added a little bit more white on top of that same color, and just going in and kind of giving it some highlights. And I mean, your guys's will look better. I'm not a detail person,
I
at
really
least.
got that. But then you'll look at it from a distance, and it'll probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I can already see how that's gonna look like looping.
It's gonna pop.
Yeah.
And definitely when you are closer, like working from distance, you'll want more detail towards the, like that will be more detailed.
Right.
So, yeah. Oh, cool, yeah.
Yeah, please. We have a question asked if they can share their painting with us. Me being, I guess, in live, is that possible? If it's not possible to do it live, but please, I'm not sure. I'm not the Brian, our tech guy's he's been that side of things. But I think please share your paintings with us on like our social media.
Can they put it on Facebook?
You can totally put it on Facebook. So go to our Travelyr Facebook page. So that's Travelyr, Travelyr with a Y. And there should be a link in the YouTube description. And please post your pictures there.
I want to see them.
That'll be like really awesome to see them. So yeah, great comment. This is our first session doing this. So like anything like that you guys have suggestions for that we could do better. Like that is a great thing. I'd love to see what everyone's done.
Yeah.
So take a picture of it, post it on our Facebook page, and yeah, that'll be awesome. I'll post mine too, and we'll post Megan's. Oh yeah, and Brian, our tech guy, had a good idea. We're making, besides the live stream video, we are making a recorded video that will be posted for each of these sessions, and sort of with more production going into it. And so we could even throw those, the paintings that you guys are doing, those viewer done paintings into that video, which would be a cool thing. A slideshow of those at the end of the video. So please send them, tag us, tag Travelyr and Megan, and we'll get those in the video.
So, yeah, now I'm just going back through with the darks again and getting that tree line a little bit darker.
It does take some patience. Like, I think me and how I am, we've been at this for an hour, and now I'm like, all right, I'm ready to be done.
And after this, you're going to be like, whew, I felt like I just ran a marathon.
Yeah.
It is a very strange feeling.
Or take a nap or have a beer and take a nap.
Yeah, I was watching professional hand wrestling with my husband yesterday at
hand wrestling.
Arm wrestling, not hand wrestling.
I was like, huh. I haven't heard of
It's a brand new sport.
Right.
And I was like, well, if anything can be a sport, I guess like art is a sport then, right? So
I just saw something on marble racing. It's a new sport.
Wow.
Which, yeah, marble racing is a sport. Painting is definitely a sport.
Good to know. Who are we to say what's the sport?
Exactly. So I had another question for you. Speaking of, this is a great segue, speaking of like the work that goes into these things, the whole argument of like inspiration versus perspiration, hard work versus like this divine inspiration you get. Can you talk to that at all? Like how much of doing art and making art do you think is that inspiration, coming up with the idea versus just like putting in a ton of work and making something happen?
Oh man, that's hard. I feel like that's when your system can get clogged, because like when you're thinking about making art, it's definitely like, oh, I have to do this, or I have to make you try to put in as much hard work as you can, and when at other moments it's just like this inspiration comes, and then you just whip something out and you're like, yes. So it's definitely, that's like 5%, the inspiration, I feel like, is definitely a 5%, whereas if you're usually working hard trying to make something for someone or making it for yourself. So I definitely feel like as much as it would be nice to have that inspiration all the time, it definitely feels like it's more of a trying to work it out the whole time.
Right, and probably the more hard work you put into it, maybe those times of inspiration are more likely to pop up. You would hope.
Yeah, you would hope, or sometimes your mind is just like, meh, I'm over this.
Yeah.
Like, it's really, art is a very, I mean, at least a painting, and I know there's so many other forms of art like that. I sometimes wish I could be able to do more collages or something that's just very like, ooh, I can just put this together in an hour, and it's just a really quick release of creativity. Whereas when you sit down to do a painting, it does take a lot more hard work and energy. I mean, not saying that people who do collages aren't doing hard work, at all, because that's not true either. But just fun little things versus like, oh, I've just committed myself to painting, you know?
Yeah. I think we're pretty, like, I'm ready to take a break.
Yeah,
And I think I need to come back to mine with some fresh eyes.
Yeah.
Last question from myself, and if anyone else has questions, please feel free to write in, because I think we're in our last couple minutes here. You sort of touched on this earlier, but someone like me who, has never done acrylics before, or just venturing into the world of art, maybe I have some extra time with quarantine and I want to get into art. What would your advice be?
I would say definitely get off of social media if you're looking for inspiration. Try to just turn off your mind. Like, I carry a sketchbook around with me all the time, and I think if you start carrying a sketchbook, I know it's like, if you're not used to doing it, it might seem kind of weird to people, but like, it is really good, because you might be sitting down waiting and just want to draw and get something out. Also good for just writing down thoughts too.
Right.
Yeah, just don't compare yourself to anybody. I think that's the number one thing that I would say.
Cool.
Because that's where you get stuck, and then you just don't want to do anything anymore.
Right. Great point. I think that disconnecting too, so that you can sort of reconnect, with yourself, with the surroundings, with art.
Because it really comes from deep down inside the subconscious mind,
which we're not accessing when we're scrolling through Instagram. Right. Okay, we have another question before we're done here on how to make the trees.
How to make the trees, like in the mountain? Or...
Yeah, I guess probably we have our one tree line. I'll zoom in really quick for this question. And I don't know. Yeah, I mean, are you gonna do much more with those trees?
I might do a little bit. I mean, I'm definitely gonna go back through and do another layer.
Clean them up a little bit.
Yeah, I'll make this darker, and then I'll come in with maybe a little bit lighter color on top of it to really make them pop, so you have a shadow going underneath the line. As far as the mountain goes, I'll probably make it a little bit limier green, and I could pick out some points on the side and kind of spike them up a little bit to follow that, and then do the same thing where you add a little bit of highlight to the trees too. But yeah, you can do whatever you want with the trees, really. You don't even have to add them. Just be a nice mound.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I love that about art.
Yeah.
Well, let's
Let's
call it. Let's put our paintings together so that hey, you can see
That's great.
what we got going here. Mine and Megan's, but I hope this is encouraging to everybody. Looking at mine.
Yours looks fine. Yours is great.
Thanks. I appreciate it. But let's why don't we turn and face everybody who's still watching for a second. And I think we're gonna clock off here. But really appreciate anyone who's tuning in, for tuning in.
Yeah.
And like we said, this piece will be for sale that Megan's done here, as well as prints of it. So hit us up, travelyrlive@gmail.com. That's with a Y, Travelyr with a Y, or on our Facebook page, or Megan askthemoonart.com.
Yep, askthemoonart.com.
Cool. And then follow, both of us on social media always helps. Our Facebook is listed there on our account. And if you feel so inclined, please donate. It helps the project happen. You can donate a one-time donation through that PayPal link, or become a sustaining member at like $3 a month, or whatever you choose, through that other Patreon link there. Much appreciated. Thanks to Crossroads Art Center and all the people that have helped us get this project off the ground. It's also partially been funded by a grant through Travel Oregon and Eastern Oregon Visitors Association. So a big thanks to them. And yeah, reach out to us with your paintings, send us pictures, and subscribe
ask
on
questions.
Ask questions.
Yeah,
Send us
absolutely.
questions. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Subscribe on YouTube to stay up to date on what we're doing, and within a couple weeks we'll have another of these sessions going. So thank you.
Thank
Yeah?
you. Thanks,
Awesome.
guys.
High five. Woo! All right, see you guys.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We off, Lon?